Welcome to the Travis County Medical Society's virtual installation ceremony for 2021. It was just March 5th of last year when we gathered in a ballroom at the Renaissance Hotel for this same ceremony, but it seems like ages ago. I recall at the time we were concerned about a possible viral epidemic affecting China, Iran, and Italy. Some hesitated to shake too many hands, and we jokingly bumped elbows with each other. We sat together, 10 at a table, and nobody even thought about wearing a mask. My address that evening was about how important it is for physicians to show up, for our patients, for our practices, and for our profession. Less than 2 weeks later, life as we knew it had ground to a halt as the world scrambled to understand and deal with a pandemic. The year since then has been one of the most difficult many of us have faced, and we physicians have found ourselves right in the middle of what will likely be the gravest healthcare crisis of our lives. But through it all, physicians have shown up. We have stood by our patients. We kept our practices open, and we worked to represent our profession with honesty and dignity. Whether educating patients about the nature of a viral pandemic and how behavior changes can keep us safe, donning layers of PPE so we can treat and test our patients for COVID, or holding the hand of a dying patient in the ICU, we have shown up for our patients. By restructuring office procedures, purchasing extra supplies and equipment, adopting telemedicine platforms, and taking pay cuts personally, we have shown up for our practices. And by volunteering to help with testing, seeing patients in hospitals and at vaccination clinics, and by steadfastly sharing accurate and truthful information about the pandemic with the public, we have shown up for our profession. Physicians in our community have carried out our commitment to healthcare admirably. I want to thank and congratulate you for all your hard work. It has been an honor to serve as the president of your medical society. This has been one of the most meaningful and memorable years of my career. I also want to thank the staff of the Travis County Medical Society, especially Marshall Cothran, Belinda Clare, Leanne Dupay, Chantel Pearson, and Remy Morris, and the TCMS Executive Board, on whom I lean frequently for advice. And I'd like to say a special thanks to Christina Fenrick and the Travis County Medical Alliance for their incredible efforts this year, culminating in a phenomenally successful vaccination program for physicians and our office staff. It's now my privilege to pass the ceremonial gavel of leadership on to Dr. Nancy Foster. Nancy, would you join me? Dr. Foster is our president for 2021. I feel like I'm heading to the locker room when it's just halftime and the game is not yet over. But Nancy has already distinguished herself by jumping in without hesitation and has things well under control as she organizes vaccination efforts, hosts town halls, and meets with city and hospital leaders. We are in capable hands. As president, I would normally ask you to accept this gavel, symbolically receiving it on behalf of the TCMS officers and members of the board, but I'm afraid it's just not big enough for the job at hand. So instead, I'm presenting you with this. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Please know that if you need help, there are many physicians and members of the TCMS in our community that will show up to help you when needed. Thank you.
Thank you. John, I would like to take a moment to express my admiration for the way that you stepped up to lead our medical society during the challenging course of COVID in 2020. And with that, would you accept a gift from the Medical Society? This is a gift of appreciation, which is not quite as large as that hammer that you handed to me, but we hope that you appreciate that and enjoy it.
Thank you.
I'd also like you to accept the past president's medallion. Thank you for all that you've done.
Much appreciated. Thank you, Nancy.
As John walks off the podium, I'm going to take a moment to thank him again for his willingness to step in and provide leadership during this transition period. And Shannon, a word of thanks to you as well, because you've put up with so many interruptions, last-minute phone calls, last-minute texts. Hey, John, do you have time to talk? Shannon, I can't tell you that those will not continue throughout the year. As we enter our new year, we've already been beset with new challenges, record numbers of hospitalizations, record numbers of critical care and ventilator patients. Our ICUs are full to overflowing. How does one vaccinate an entire population? How does one set up monoclonal antibody infusion centers and do so equitably? As I enter my 2021 leadership year, I find excitement, I find dedication, but I also find trepidation. We're already set with challenges, and this is only January. We have 11 months to go. But I felt this way before. In 2015, I lost my mother, and she was truly my role model and a friend. A few short months later, I had a career change. I moved from one hospital system to another system with everything that entails. But rather than let these life changes overwhelm me, I decided instead to do something that was life-changing. I had no idea what I was doing, but I grabbed my passport, I got my backpack, and jumped on a plane to France. I don't know how, but I made my way by bus and by train all the way to a city in southern France, Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. There I began a 500-mile journey on foot to Santiago de Compostela. This was truly a life-changing event for me. Similarly to January of 2021, I jumped in with both feet, literally, and naive determination, and discovered how little I knew about being a pilgrim, and now how little I know about leading our medical society. But I did learn a few things along the way that I think will help me in navigating this year. It's important to pace yourself and to learn from those that have gone before you. I walked on the Roman road, traveled the same paths through the Pyrenees that Hannibal used. I stopped at every ancient hospital site, every small church, every giant cathedral, every battlefield, and I learned from those who had walked on that road before me. I intend to do the same this year. I intend to call upon our past presidents who have walked before us, on John, Tony Aventa, Jeff Apple, my friends, Peggy Russell and Tom McHorse. Do not be surprised when you get a phone call from me, because I will need your direction. I also learned that it is important to seek the companionship of others. The Camino was not meant to be walked alone. One of the joys was meeting all the people from all over the world. A lovely artist from Nova Scotia, an Irish gastroenterologist who was determined to tell me everything I needed to know about football, better known locally as soccer. His beloved national team made it to the World Cup finals that year, and it was a very exciting event for him. We watched soccer practically every evening. I walked with a farmer who rode his draft horse the entire way. A lovely family from Australia. They became my friends. And especially a venerable retired family practitioner from France who had wonderful insight. These were all my friends at the end of the Camino. And I find that this year I will be called upon to communicate and make friends with many people, with our city leaders, with administrators from different hospital systems, with physicians, and with patients as well. This will be important if we intend to fight COVID. It's also important to keep an open mind. One day, walking into Burgos, I passed an archaeological remain where Homo antecessens was uncovered, and it was fabulous. This was a hominid that walked the European continent over 1 million years ago, long before Homo sapiens. I later went to the Museum of the Dedication to Exploration of Mankind. It was a fabulous museum. They had an actual life-size replica of the HMS Beagle that Darwin sailed on when he explored the Galapagos. This museum told the science about our creation. Afterwards, I went to eat lunch on the bench outside the museum and looked across the canal, and there were the flags of the Playa de Santa Maria, which is where the Cathedral of Burgos sits. That cathedral was massive, and it was also an architectural feat. It was started in 1221 and not finished until 1557. It had spires and arches and stained glass windows, not to mention a beautiful painting of the Virgin Mary. This cathedral explained not the science behind our creation, but the theology behind our creation. So juxtaposed within a few blocks of one city, we have multiple opinions: the science of creation, the theology of creation. Both were accepted equally, and the citizens of Burgos directed us to both locations. A fabulous lesson that we could learn from. I learned never to walk away from a challenge. One should meet the challenges that one faces in life with respect, with determination, and with courage. There was a couple that I followed for several days. They were from France, and they held hands the entire way, and she talked incessantly. It wasn't until I caught up to them at a stoplight in Lyon that I realized he was blind. It was his goal to walk the Camino de Santiago, but he became blind before he was able to accomplish his life dream. So with the help of his wife, who held his hand the entire way and explained to him everything that she was seeing so that he could visualize it in his mind, he was able to accomplish his life goal. My hat is off to him. So as I plod along every day of my presidency, I will call upon the experience of others. I will attempt to keep an open mind, and I will lead collaboratively. I may not have the answer to each challenge that we face this year, but I can say that I will listen to each of your opinions, and I will try to lead you with integrity. If we are together to conquer COVID, this is the approach that we must take. Thank you very much. And now, off to work.